Our hope and prayer for this podcast is that our content will meet you right where you are and leave a spark that only God can fan based on His Word. We will give credit where credit is due when we remember. Most of our content is based on our life experiences and training, not to be substituted for the Word of God in your life.
Welcome to the Connected Heart Podcast. We are two Christian women
Here to laugh, have some fun, and engage in authentic conversations that lean into the power of connecting with God.
because thinking about God and thinking with God are not the same things. Well, welcome back to the Connected Heart Podcast. I'm Martha Scholz, and this is
Sandi, Slough.
And we are thrilled that you are back to join us for episode 12, second one of season 2.
Or season 2, episode 2.
Yep.
There it is.
So we are so excited to be back, and a new year has started, and we are raring to go. So we're thrilled you're here to help us and stay with us.
Absolutely.
So we're excited.
We're grateful
excited.
for you.
Yes, very grateful for you. We have lots of information to go over today and things to fill you in on. Life has been busy for both of us.
Well, especially for you. Congratulations are in order.
Yes, we have new grandbaby, little grandson, Quinn. We've been waiting for him. So we are we're a little giddy. We're kind of sickening giddy. Like every little picture. Yeah, we're kind of losing it. But
you should be.
Yeah.
That's the prerogative of a grandparent.
Yeah. And again, they say this is the prize we get for not, killing our other children. So I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty proud of myself that I made it through, and this is the prize. So no, that's fun. That's really, really fun.
And you know what's great about grandchildren is?
What?
Well, you can do all the things you wouldn't do for your own kids.
Yeah.
And then when they're kind of spoiled, just hand them back.
Yeah. I'm out.
Oh, yeah, I'm out.
I'm out. This is fun. But I got to tell you, it was some work getting there. But all good. Yeah, all good. All good. So here is an update for those of you who had listened to our podcast for the beginning of the year that we talked about vision casting and
with Raylyn.
With Raylyn Van Pelt. So that was kind of fun. I said there were some digs that she was making in there that I knew, being her friend. I was like, you were trying to throw me under the bus during the podcast, but that's okay. So that's the morning walk, because believe it or not, in South Texas, it is cold outside.
Super cold.
It
has been. We've had our week of winter.
Yeah.
We've just concluded our week of true winter.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It was cold,
yes.
And the wind was hard.
Yeah. So it was really tough. So we're going to do the recap because I did come up with my word of the year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. It was so exciting. And Raylyn made sure that she delivered on the rock.
Okay, so this is the Raylyn kind of rock.
Yeah, this is the Raylyn, the river rock that was delivered.
Did she walk into the Frio to get the river rock? That's all I want to know. Or did she buy them at Home Depot?
No, she doesn't buy them.
Oh, okay.
No, she really doesn't buy them, but she collects them when it's warm.
Okay.
Okay, so my word of the year is different.
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 Well, that's different.
That is different.
What does that mean?
So for me, what God revealed is that I apparently have a tendency that if it's different, I automatically discard it and think that it's not something I want to do or try. And sometimes in our thinking, different is okay. So my challenge for this word is different. The podcast was different, right?
Absolutely.
We jumped out there. So there'll be parts of that and learning all of this that will be different for me. So kind of having fun with it. So when an opportunity comes, and I'll automatically think, well, I'm not going to do that. That's out of my wheelhouse. It's like, wait a minute, maybe I ought to think differently. Ask the Lord, is different good in this situation?
Wow. So, what's really, really beautiful about you sharing this with us today is that not only can Raylyn help you with this word,
Yes.
but I'm on that team as well.
Okay.
And our hundreds of listeners out there
Yes.
can also challenge you
to be different.
embrace different.
Yes. Accountability partners. There we go. I'm so excited.
Absolutely.
But,
so
like I actually listened to some AI stuff where
that's different.
that is different, and it's going to be very different for us, but I didn't automatically discard it and think, oh, I don't want to learn about that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's my word. Did you happen to come up with the word?
I did, but now that I know I have all these accountability partners,
you don't want to share.
I don't know if I should share, but I will.
Okay.
I will.
Okay.
My word is engage.
Ooh.
And what I've kind of come to understand about myself after quite a while of soul searching.
Yes.
Most people would consider me an extrovert, which I agree that at times, I can stand on a stage and talk to hundreds of people and not feel nervous about that that's not a problem for me. I'll go to things that I'm invited to, but I don't recharge by going to social things. So maybe I'll call myself a social introvert. I'm not the first to jump out there and just say, yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have a really dear friend that her middle name is probably Go. Right? She just loves to go. She loves to do.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it once I get there, but it's that process of getting me to engage in the idea.
Okay, there's your word.
Yeah, so engage is the word.
Engage is the word. Okay, well, that's exciting. Yeah, we'll probably be checking in on these.
I know we will.
Yeah, we'll be checking in. So
I'm sure there'll be some comments questioning us.
Yes.
How we've encountered our word.
There you go. You go. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. So that's morning walk. Okay, my friend, I'm going to knock it back over to you. So do we have a curious question for today?
Well, speaking of different.
Yes.
I love games. I love games. I love puzzles. And when Larry was in the hospital, you had given us a word search book. Yeah. And we kept that word search book on the counter. And we were always, every day we would do several pages of the word search book until it was out. We bought a new one yesterday.
Oh, good.
But one of Larry's daughters, one of my bonus daughters, had come to visit. And the book was out. And she said, oh, I love this. So then the next time she came to visit, she had her own word search book and she was doing something else. And I said, well, what are you doing? She said, well, I'm doing Sudoku. And I was like, oh, I've tried that before. And I wasn't very good at that. And she said, well, let me show you how to do it. So we started doing it. We made some copies out of her book and tried a few. And we decided to buy Sudoku books. I'm not sure why.
Okay.
But what I do know about Sudoku is you should have a good pencil and a great eraser.
Okay.
Because it doesn't matter how right I think I am. I'll look in those lines and I'll think, oh yeah, I've got it perfect. I've got it down. And then doggone it, there's 2 of the same number in that line. And I'll have to erase box after box after box. So now all my great pencils are lacking erasers because I've just rubbed them off. Yeah. But it prompted my curious question.
Okay. Which is?
Well, my curious question is, if the number 2 pencil is so popular, why is it still number 2? I mean, it should be the number 1 pencil.
It should be the number 1 pencil. We need to talk to the lead people.
Is that it?
I think it's a lead issue.
It's a lead issue.
I think it's a lead issue. I could be wrong because I'm really not an expert on pencils, but I would think it would be a lead issue.
It's probably a lead issue. And probably artists know.
They
the
probably
difference.
do.
Yeah.
But that's a good, curious question. I love that. Why is it not number one?
There you go.
The number one, number two pencil.
The number one, number two pencil.
I think I might even be able to research that one.
Okay.
Because some of your curious questions, like, over my head.
Hey, and mine. That's why I ask them.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, so we have a lot to talk about today.
Yes, we do.
Because we are kicking off and getting ready for our Living in Identity class that we're going to talk about in a minute. But our first subject on that, which we talked about last time, is forgiveness.
Ooh, that's a biggie.
It is a biggie. And as you and I discussed, it seems that that's kind of cliche, like, oh yeah, the whole forgiveness thing. But it's really foundational. And to really get into some of the subjects that we're going to be talking about on living in your identity is it's foundational, and we will be visiting forgiveness quite a bit. And so that's the excitement about this. But we're gonna dig in a little bit, because the real question is, why? My curious question, but why is forgiveness so difficult?
Yeah,
because it is.
It totally is.
I don't care who you are. It is hard.
Yeah. And, as a former school teacher, I watched it over and over again. Girls would get in a squabble in elementary or middle school.
Yeah.
And they'd keep that thing going until long past, the actual incident.
Yeah.
Well into high school, sometimes all the way through high school. And when you'd ask them what was the source of the problem, so many times they didn't even know anymore.
Yeah.
The emotion of whatever happened had kind of taken the front seat, and the actual happening had taken the back seat.
Yeah.
It was just an interesting thing to observe.
It is.
And then to observe it in yourself. If you've never observed it in yourself.
You're right.
I challenge folks to observe it in yourself.
Yes. It was funny. I was leading a Bible study this week, and we were talking about how many chances God gives us. He gives us so many chances. And I made this statement, and then it tied right back into this, because my husband said this to somebody one time. He said, when she's done, she's done. And that means that I am fun, forgiving, love the party, love people, go through this whole thing, and I will give people many chances. But when I am done, I am done. And I said it to this group, and I was like, oh, I am totally convicted right now. But my insides, my emotions were, oh yeah. And I'm thinking of several things right about now that, no. Most people don't know that. You wouldn't see it. And I'm really good at masking it. But it's there. And of course, when I heard my husband say it, I was like, oh, because he kind of knows me.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So he didn't call me on it. I mean, he was just making an observation. But really, when I said that this week, I was like, that ties right into the unforgiveness. And I was convicted. I thought, some of these things I do need to go back and look at. People, situations. And of course, I see it in coaching all the time.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't apply to me. So,
well, or we can learn from our clients how to handle it. Now, I will say I've struggled on the flip side of that.
Okay.
I've offered so much forgiveness at times that that I have no boundaries with it. And so I'll forgive and I'll forgive and I'll forgive and I'll forgive. And then I become that person in some ways that I'm being taken advantage of. Right. And
Mm,
I've coached many folks that's the challenge they have.
right.
And finding out how to draw an appropriate boundary when you've been hurt deeply, because there are situations where we have been hurt deeply. Once we work through that process of forgiveness, because like everything, forgiveness is a process. Once we work through that, it's super important to ask yourself, well, then what boundaries do I need to establish for this relationship?
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
one that I'm forgiving this instance
Yeah.
of, right?
Well, and the fact that you brought up that forgiveness is a process and it's not really a feeling.
No.
And that's hard.
Yes.
And because sometimes people will be so flippant to throw out a scripture that you are to forgive. Well, we're well aware that we need to forgive.
7 times 70.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
But it's really hard. And through my journey of really working through some of my hurts and so forth, I did realize God revealed to me that there was unforgiveness that I had no idea that I needed to forgive. Like back in the day, that had really taken root. And so that was an eye opener. And the cool thing is that there are a lot of modalities and things to help you work through forgiveness.
Yes.
That we're going to talk about in the class, which is exciting. And I'm really looking forward to walking through this with people and really helping people get some real freedom in this.
Yeah, this subject is a big part of my personal testimony. I won't go into that today, but I will share this simple little story that I shared with you once about a grudge that I held toward a sibling, right?
Yeah.
And something simple was going on, something that should have been fun.
Yeah.
And the sibling makes a comment, and all of a sudden my 10-year-old comes back.
Yeah.
With all of my anger and my unforgiveness inside of me. And I'm like struggling to hold the 10-year-old in, like just struggling to not just spew all over my sibling. Right.
Yeah.
And I finished whatever we were doing and I walked away, didn't really make any comments, just walked away. And my husband came and joined me. And I just burst into tears and I was like, why does the 10-year-old have to show up now?
Right.
Right? Well, it was the Lord reminding me, hey, you've got a place where your decision to forgive and your emotion of forgiving are not aligned yet.
Right.
So we're going to keep working on that alignment so that you can truly, once and for all, forgive and let that go.
That's
and
right.
I think that slap in the face of just seeing my 10-year-old again.
Yeah.
I was
that's
like,
not a lot of fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
we don't need to be 10 anymore.
Yeah.
This hurt's over.
I said to a client the other day, I said, ooh, that unforgiveness, that train just pulled in the station again.
It's a good way to see it.
Yeah, because God does it. Yes, it can go away and go around and take a different course, but he brings it back around until we're willing to deal with it. And which really, brings us into what happens when you forgive.
Right.
And how great that is.
Yes. Yes.
So,
and that whole process, like we said,
right.
the process of forgiveness, right? And at what like any process, you never just go, oh, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. You go step 1, step 2, step 1, step 1, 2, 3, 1.
Right.
Right. And so in that process, you're bouncing back and forth. And yet each time you take that step forward and then you take that step back, you're actually making progress.
Yes.
You just don't always recognize it as progress.
Right. And one of the things on this subject of forgiveness that can get me spurred is there's a lot of church hurt with forgiveness. And I say that meaning that some people will say, well, this is happening to you because of unforgiveness, or calling out things saying that, there's some theology out there that says because of that, then that's why these bad things are happening to you. And I don't really agree with that. But unforgiveness does block, I think, some God from doing some work in areas of your life.
Absolutely. Now, I could see how we maybe establish a pattern of thinking that when a new situation approaches us, if we haven't ever taken all those dance steps through forgiveness to all the way to true forgiveness, we might fall into our own habit of thinking. Because remember when we talked about the brain and the mind mapping that happens?
Right.
I could see us falling into a rut of a mind map that could make it appear that it's happening because we haven't forgiven. What I'd say is it's really just a habit we've created of dealing with things when they don't go the way we expect them to go.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good way to think about it.
Right. Yeah. And so us learning what's our normal pattern and saying, I want to interrupt that pattern of thinking.
Yeah.
So that I can walk in there. That's different.
Different thinking.
Right. So that I can walk in forgiveness. When we talk, you and I talked about this the other day when I'm a person who reads a lot of World War II books. I don't know why. Maybe because I just can't even imagine the atrocities that went on during World War II to the Jewish people. And thinking of them as God's chosen people, right? I just can't even. And I can't even imagine being a person who lived right there and you were seeing things happen. And so I recently watched the documentary about Bonhoeffer. And he was a religious leader in Germany during all of that, right? And they were, can you imagine being in a church in Germany during that time? No. I mean, unbelievable. Yeah. But a couple of our favorite books that we share as favorite books and authors are Jewish writers.
Yes.
Edith Eger.
Yes. The Gift.
And The Gift. And what's the other one that she wrote? Now we're put you both of us are on the spot and I can't remember, but
we've talked about it before.
We
it's in one of the
episodes. But totally thinking about here she was, a prisoner in a prison camp.
Yeah.
And now today she's out here preaching the message of forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I think, could I
do that? Yeah.
That's,
and just in the line of work we do, I mean, I've heard some horrific stories and I would think, that would be a hard one to forgive.
Yes.
But
God. Yeah. God always equips us.
I know.
And these are some of what we'll grapple with in our Bible study together, right?
Yep.
Some of these big questions and wondering, what is the dance of forgiveness?
Yes.
How do we work through it? What's the process really look like?
Right.
And then what's my process look like?
So the material that I love is from the ministry Hope for the Heart that June Hunt has started 40 years ago. And her materials are so fabulous. And so we're gonna start with info from this book on forgiveness. Releasing You is Freeing Me. And that's from their Keys to the Living library. But I had the privilege of meeting June. And there's a book that she wrote, How to Forgive When You Don't Feel Like It. And that is a great book. But she said to me when I had it in my hand, and I don't know how many books she's written, but a lot, she whispered to me, "That was the hardest one I've ever written." And I was like, "Oh,
Whoa.
wow." So there is, so this was a good one, but she said, "It took me a long time and it was the hardest one I ever wrote."
Wow.
So I
Makes
was
me
like,
wonder,
yeah.
was she walking through
Oh,
a season?
and her story is, very, very interesting, but I loved that. And so we're gonna be unpacking a lot
We
in our
are.
class.
Exactly.
So now that is starting
January 27th, Monday, January 27th.
mhm,
We will have both face-to-face option and a virtual option.
okay.
Um,
I plan
right?
on being there. Yes.
Well, I do too. I do too.
I plan on being there, and then so how can our listeners participate in our class?
Well, the amazing Daniel
Yes.
will drop a link.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Drop a
Down
link.
there.
Yeah.
And then you will be able to click that link and register for the class. Now, what's really, really important to know is if you're planning to join us virtually, it is important that you register so that you can get the Zoom link. It will not be published anywhere.
No.
And it will be sent directly to your inbox. So
Right.
it's
So make
really
sure there's
important.
a good email.
Now, if you we want everyone to register. It helps us know how to prepare. If you happen to show up face to face on the first day and you haven't registered, we'll help you find the link. We'll help you get registered.
Yep.
It would not be the end of the world. We would walk through that and figure it out.
Oh, absolutely. But the main thing is that, it's for communication and keeping everybody on the same page and sending out resources that we have and things we have ready. So that's why that's so important.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm excited. This is forgiveness. Although it'll sound cliche, it's a deep subject, and there's nobody that isn't affected by it or needs to learn about it. So we would love for you to join us with our class. Please look at the show notes. It's got all the information, and we will see you next time.
Well, and we want to stop or end with a question for you to ponder.
Oh, that's right.
And it's really the title of that book that you just shared.
Mm-hmm.
How do you forgive when you really don't feel like it?